Right, so very warm welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're in Sandton today, just north of Johannesburg, and this is, I guess, a discussion post Medium Freedom Day, which took place over the weekend on the 19th of October, and we have a panel that's helping us discuss the state of media freedom, and the journey that we've taken, lessons learned perhaps over the last 21 years. And one person who hasn't spoken is Mr. Lumko Mtimde. And I'm just wondering, this weekend the President spoke, and the ANC had their NGC recently, and the idea of a media appeals tribunal has been mooted once again. And the background to this is that the President says, yes, we're all for press freedom, we're all for freedom of expression, but the media can't be allowed to do what it wants to do. Is that what's been happening, that the media's been kind of footloose and running amok without supervision?
Yes, Peter. Perhaps it would be proper that maybe I start by paying tribute to one of us, one of the selfless heroes who has fallen, who did not only fight for sports for all, but he also supported freedom of the airwaves during the apartheid days, and recently also led the public broadcaster, Mzimkulu Malunga. I think we should start from the point that what happened before the event of 19 October 1977 and post during the apartheid days must and shall never happen again. And fortunately, in our country, we then were able to, not only after fighting for these freedoms as the ANC, were able to ensure that these freedoms are enshrined in our constitution and in the subsequent laws that gives meaning and effect to that constitution. You would recall, if you recall from when we were led by President Mandela in 1994 at the International Press Institute Congress, he said the same words that President Zuma said on Sunday, which are therefore that the media that we want is a free, independent, investigative, and diverse media. The proposals for parliamentary inquiry into the desirability of a media appeals tribunal should be understood in its correct context and perspective. If you read that proposal, which started from the Polokwane Congress, it has always been couched within the framework of our constitution. It has always been said within the very framework of that resolution that this is not about pre-publication censorship, this is not about registering journalists, this is not about threatening press freedom, but it is to acknowledge that every right goes with responsibilities and is limited in the very constitution that we're talking about. And there's hierarchy of rights that needs to be balanced. There is right to human dignity, there's other rights that people have. So we should understand the media rights in the context of the societal rights. So that is the context of the proposal, and it could actually, the outcome of this process could be a kind of system that is in line with what the Press Freedom Commission spoke to, which is independent regulation. And we should not be afraid of independent regulation, because that is norm, that is standard, and it always enhances professionalism. What led to these proposals is a whole reality that many of our own colleagues have spoken to, of the challenges that we face in the profession, the standards that are being compromised in our profession, the non-consequential non-compliance with the press code, even the press code that has just now been amended after the Press Freedom Commission. But the kind of consequences that get imposed for non-compliance are such that it is norm to just basically continue to report wrongly and just apologize even before the person complains. What Brian said as the experience of ESCOM is an experience of many South Africans who are reported about in our media. Just on Monday, when we were debating this Media Freedom Day, one of the newspapers, I won't say which one, it had an apology on page 2, an apology on page 3, and those were like reports that were so wrong but negatively impacted on people. Even before those people could apologize, they could complain, they already apologized. So we want a system that will enhance responsibility, that will be independent, and it will therefore serve the public interest.
All right, we'll explore what that system is, but I want to get some reaction. Karima, you are Chief Content Officer, but he's saying that this content is wrong.
Well, I think he's not saying that it's wrong. I think he's saying that there's room for improvement. I think any industry, especially the media industry, we make mistakes, and that's normal. It's the response to the mistake that is important. And I think what we're talking about is whether the measures that we have at the moment are adequate, or whether the measures as proposed by the ANC for Parliament to look into are required. And I think that's the nub of the debate here. My view is that the measures that we have are not perfect. In fact, they're evolving all the time, and I think that's a good thing. I'm weary of a parliamentary process that looks at the media, because it places in the hands of politicians the very people that we are meant to be holding to account, among others, including business, including all kinds of power elites. It places in their hands the ability to determine what happens. And so I think there is a need to look at how we do our work. I think there is a need to reflect, and I think there's a need for correction. Whether a tribunal is the answer, for me personally, I don't think so. I think it's undesirable. It's inconsistent with the democratic ethos. It's inconsistent with the transparency that we have. The fact that the Press Council, as it stands at the moment, doesn't work perfectly isn't an argument for statutory regulation. And I think that's the kind of nub for me of the matter. But having said that, I think as an industry, we do need to look into each other, but we can't make policy because politicians are aggrieved. We need to actually look at the facts. We need to look at whether people have recourse, whether the institutions are working, and we need to be guided by the evidence.
Okay.
And I think those are the kinds of things that are important when we look at how we fix the kinds of institutions that are there to regulate the media.
All right, we'll get more comment. Mr. Thloloe, Press Council, Ombudsman, it doesn't seem to be working as well as it should, but I want to get a response from you, because I've got to take a quick break, and when we come back, just help us understand what your role is, what you're doing, and what you're not able to do. And we'll also get some comments from our other panelists. Stay with us.